people are motivated by the moments of tension, the moments of struggle, and then they're motivated by the moment of release. Like, what is the release? So instead of asking the question, what is the biggest problem? You could ask them something like, in a perfect world, envision a perfect world in your business. What does that look like? Describe it to me. Same exact answer,
So
different
good.
way to look at it.
Yeah, so good.
Welcome to the Pintastic Podcast, a podcast about growing profitability the right way with sustainable systems so you can be found first without tantrums over tech and trading sleep for success. Prepare yourself for mind-blowing discussions and actionable tips focused on Pinterest strategies, funnel marketing, and everything in between with your host, Laura Reich. So let's make Pinterest profitable for you.
I am so excited today, you guys. We have the wonderful Amy Hartmann on with us, and we are going to talk all about buyer-centric marketing. And for those of you who don't know what that means, that is okay. We will tell you all about it because Amy has this awesome phrase that she uses, and I'm not going to steal her thunder. I will let her introduce all that, but welcome, Amy.
Hi, thank you.
Yes, I'm so excited you are here. So, for those of you who are new, Amy Hartmann is the original free spirit that created Free Spirit Digital. And she develops and implements unique and highly effective marketing strategies for fun, fearless, innovative coaches, content creators, and service providers.
That's what we do.
Awesome. Awesome. Okay. So let's jump right in, Amy. What is customer centric marketing?
Such a good question. And I love to start with that because so many times when we think about marketing, we're thinking about how can I tell everyone about my product? How can I sell? How can I, be a salesy weirdo? And we're thinking about it from our perspective because we have a product that we need to sell to someone, as opposed to flipping that script so that our marketing is all about someone has something that they need and we can solve that problem. So what we do at Free Spirit Digital, which is my agency, is that all of our marketing that we develop for our clients, for the people that I coach, is all about what is the customer thinking, the buyer thinking at every point at every stage of the buyer's journey. It's their journey. They're on this journey. They don't need you to tell them where to go. They already know where they're going. What they need is for you to tell them how to get there and how you can help them get there.
Okay, right? So good. They don't need you to tell them where to go. Oh my gosh. Okay, so can you give us like a real life example of someone that is focused on get the buy in their marketing? Like, is there a way that we can, it's no a secret. You are my marketing director for my business, yes, right? So if you want to pull one out for us, by all means, go ahead. But let's give them like a real life example of how we flip that script for that way in marketing in general for someone.
I mean, you and I we work all the time on your sales pages and on all of that. And every single time when we start with one at the beginning, I'm always saying, okay, you're just telling them what you do. You're not flipping it to tell them what they should, where are you helping them? It's not about you. It's never about you. It's never about your product. It's about how does your product serve their need? Because again, I'm going to say it again. When you tell people what you do, you're trying to tell them where to go. They don't need that. They already come to you with their own set of problems. And if you think about it from when you put together like a form or something for your clients, and if everybody kind of thinks about this in their own business, if a client was to come to you to work with you and you were to say, we always start with, so how can I help you? What are the problems that you're having? And then we try to figure out the way that we can solve this. But if we come to it from that perspective to begin with, so if we think about the headline in the marketing, the headline in our copy, it shouldn't be about, I do this for you. It should be about, you have this problem and here's how we can help you to solve it, right? So
Yeah,
it's
of
always
course.
about them. It's never about you.
Okay, so we all know I love Pinterest, right? And I pulled out of there when you were talking about headlines and you were talking about this short opportunity that we have to convey to them that we're focused on their benefits, right?
Yeah.
So, how do we make sure that we have our customer centric mindset ready when we are creating these short form titles on Pinterest? We have this tiny little graphic, right, that we can create, and we have this maybe 6 to 8 words in a title that we can put on the image. Like, what is a tip that you have for us to make sure our mindset is focused on that continually, even as we do these Pinterest pins that is bringing that visibility to the offer that we have?
Such a great question. I can't stress this enough. You need to be asking your clients how they found you, why they found you, what they were looking for when they found you. So what were they typing in? How did they find you? What were they looking for? And also, what made them choose you? You need to be asking them. We have to ask our clients these things all the time. Our customers, our buyers are the best source of research. When you truly know your client, when you understand where they're coming from, what they're typing into the search, you in your head have this idea that you are your ideal client, and you're not your ideal client. You are your ideal client 10 steps ahead. So we have to get back into the mindset of, where was I when I first had this problem? What made me develop this in the first place? Because that's where they're coming from. So whatever it is, excuse me, that you're trying to convey, you need to understand your client and their mindset. Now, if you're listening to this and you're like, well, I don't have any clients, I'm just getting started, no problem. Go back to where you were in your mind. Go back to where you were when you first had this idea, when you first came up with this. What problem were you solving for yourself? So in other words, go back to when you actually were your ideal client, right?
Yeah.
And think about some of those search terms, and then go out into, I love to go to forums. I love to go to comments on like books that are about your topic, and pull all of those together and take a look for patterns of language. So when we talk about copy, when we're talking about those headlines, and there's a difference between copy and content. So content is what you're putting out there to show your value, and copy is what you're doing to actually sell. So motivating them to make a decision. So what you're
in
talking
here, we want to focus on copy only, not
copy
on
only.
the content. So not
Yes.
the blog posts, not the videos, not that. We're talking about the specific copy so that we are still focused on get the buy.
Yes. So you want to be talking about what is motivating them to make a decision. I call it their money language. What is the language that makes them give up their money? And I don't mean that in a negative way, right? But there is something that motivates someone to make a decision. So
of course,
when it comes to copy, it is short, it is concise, it is 6 words, right? But what is that money language? So when you dig into either asking your clients or going into some forums or into comments, like book comments are great. Go to Amazon, look up books that are on your topic, look at the comments, and people will say, I love this book. This is what was going on. This is the problem that it solved for me. That language and those patterns of language is what you want to be using in your copy, because it's what motivates people. And it's what they're looking for. So when they're out doing searches, and especially on Pinterest is a search engine. Yep. They're out looking for this. They're typing in these words to find you. And if you're going to be found, you have to be using their language, not yours.
I love it so much. Okay. So in this, I want to be able to offer people the 3 quick steps that they can be able to do to kind of, like you say, flip the script, which I love that so much. And so one thing that I heard is, if you already have an existing audience and you already have existing clients is send them a survey, right?
Yep.
Send them a quick email and just be like, hey, thanks so much for your support. How did you hear about me? Or ask them, what was the reason that you confided in me to be able to handle this for you in terms of services? If you are someone who doesn't have an audience and you're just getting started, then go to the forums. Like you're talking like Quora, you're talking like Facebook forums, Facebook groups, post a comment in there or a question asking, or see what other people are already talking about, right?
Right. Exactly.
Okay. And so then what is a third way if, say, we're already established, like for my business, right? I already have underneath when people sign up for a call with me, how did you hear about our agency? Right. And so I have that. I know that we have on the back end of purchases, like, what was the reason you purchased? Kind of more for the social proof, but that also works for this. So what is something that would be unconventional, that would be a fun way for a more established agency or business owner to be able to also kind of bring it back to home and focus on this all over again if they've kind of lost sight a little bit?
Yeah. So actually, this is something you should be doing continuously. So I want to make sure that you understand that even if you are an established business, so our world, this digital world, people have access to things, and we are way more sophisticated, if you will, in terms of how we understand. So for example, if we were to go back, let's say 5 years ago, and I said, come to my webinar, I'm going to teach you X, Y, and Z, people would come to learn that thing. Today, when we say the word webinar, just to be honest, people know there's going to be a sales pitch at the end, right? So we're very sophisticated as human beings. We evolve, we understand what's going on. We get it, right? So within your marketing, this is not a stagnant thing. You can't say, okay, well, like 2 years ago, I did this survey and I came up with all this money language and this has been working, because you're going to find that it falls off. So what you have to do is continually be talking about this. So when you're getting on calls with clients, when they buy a new product or service, when they come back to you, continually asking these questions. You can also have a little fun with it. So if you have a Facebook group, put questions in your Facebook group that are giving you some information. Also test everything you do. So take 2 different headlines and test them. Every single thing should be tested. And it's the one area that most people won't do, is they'll put it out there and say, let me see if this works. Well, a scientific test really needs 2 parts to compare, right? So put together an A/B test. If you have a Facebook group, put it out there. Put together A/B tests with your headlines in your emails, right? Always test what works with your audience. What works for your audience isn't going to work for someone else. If you are, Laura's Pinterest, there are other Pinterest specialists out there, but she is unique in what she does, and what works for another person is not going to work for her, and vice versa. And that's why I always say there's really no competition, because you are unique and only you can bring to the table what you bring, and only you can guide your buyer in the way that you do. And that's going to resonate with certain people. So test it. Don't get stuck in comparison. Always be asking these questions, and always put yourself back in the mind of the buyer. So in our maps that we create, here's your stages of awareness. Everybody talks about that, so you're not aware of the company, you are aware, you're a customer, whatever. But instead of stopping there with like, what are the pieces that go here? We put in, what is the buyer thinking in this moment? And it's something like, I have a problem. I wish I could find someone that could solve this problem. List it out. Oh my goodness, I found a company. I think they might be right for me. Let's find out what else they have, right? Always along the lines of, what is the buyer thinking? Because it's not about you. It's not about you. It's about them.
Yeah,
always.
100%. Okay, so I'm going to relate this to a couple of different things, right? First off, I love that you say test, because that is something that I preach to everybody with Pinterest, right? And when we're saying test, we're not saying make massive changes, which is something I also talk about. It could be, in terms of Pinterest design, you change a color, or maybe you remove a call to action and you have one with a strong call to action and one with just the title, right? So in regards to this, do you suggest that they change the full copy sentence, which is only 6 to 8, 9 words, or do you suggest they use like maybe a thesaurus and change out a different word instead? What would be part one question is what would be the like what's the word where you just focus on small changes so you have that area that apples to apples, this is what works better. And then part two to that, do you feel because this needs to be something that happens all the time and it's essentially evergreen, or it should be in your business, would it be a fun for me to maybe create a form or a questionnaire or something that is, what do you struggle with the most, or what would be the most beneficial to you in terms of, let's just keep going with Pinterest marketing, and have it almost like a blog post that you have a pin that constantly leads to it for people who aren't in your circle, right? So I know that was a 2-part question, but
yeah, no problem. Okay. So when it comes to marketing, I always say marketing is an art and a science. In other words, you have to have data to move your marketing forward, and that's the science part. And then the art part of it is that human beings they're not black and white. There's a whole bunch of gray in the middle, and we today are motivated by one thing, and tomorrow we might be motivated by something else. And our brains love to play tricks on us. There's mindset thing, and we like to overthink and be impulsive. Like, just everyone is different. And so when it comes to testing, you definitely don't want to change the entire, headline. You want to start changing words, small words. Also, we love to be really cute with stuff, like especially on Pinterest. We love to say really cute sayings and find fun ways to say different things. And the thing is that that's not how people are searching. That's our cute way to say it. So you can test it and see how it resonates.
Thank you.
But test it and find if it resonates. But also remember that in the search engines that people are using, they're not coming up with your cute little phrase. That's what happens later on in stages of awareness, right? Like, once they're aware of you, once they know what you do, then that's going to resonate with them. But before they've ever met you, that's not the search that they're looking for. So also be really careful with that. But testing out small pieces. I mean, scientific testing is about changing one thing so that you truly know what was the factor, what was the thing that changed. So change one thing, then test something different and test something different.
Yeah, for sure. So controlled test. That's what I was looking for. A controlled environment of testing.
Yeah. Otherwise you don't really know what worked. You have to be able to know what worked. So yes, small changes, understand it's an art and a science, understand that data can't drive everything, because, I always say, people say, well, we're going to target them. We're not hunters. You're not hunting them down. You're not targeting people, right? It's not what it's about. So that's important. And then to your second question, which was, should we have something that's a continual questionnaire? Yes, I think you should have something that's continuous, a pin that would lead people back to that. But I do want to caution you to be very careful with open-ended questions like, what problems do you have? And that's something we ask a lot in Facebook groups too. When they join, we'll say, what is the biggest struggle that you have? Sometimes people don't even know what their struggle is. So if we say, what's your biggest struggle? We don't know what we don't know. Okay. So I may not know that. So sometimes it might be better to have some of the things that typically you think might be issues for people, and they're typically broader. So if we go into some groups and we say, like, what's the biggest problem in your business right now? Or if there was one thing in your business that you would love to have, the number one answer across the board, and I've seen this done in so many groups, and I've done it myself in groups, the number one answer across the board from business owners is visibility. That is huge. It is broad, and there's so many different ways to create that. But if I was to go in a questionnaire and say, what is the biggest struggle in your business right now? The answer is probably not going to be, I don't have enough eyeballs on my content, right? That's probably not what they're going to say. And so to just be really careful with the wording around the questions, because you might not get answers if you're making it too broad. Again, people don't know what they don't know. And so not that you want to guide them, but people are motivated by the moments of tension the moments of struggle, and then they're motivated by the moment of release. Like, what is the release? So instead of asking the question, what is the biggest problem? You could ask them something like, in a perfect world, envision a perfect world in your business. What does that look like? Describe it to me. Same exact answer,
So
different
good.
way to look at it.
Yeah, so good. Okay. Can you repeat that last part for me and for everybody else one more time about tension? Because I think that was super important to think about in anything that you do in your marketing, right? Because a lot of times, I mean, at least for me, I do tend to focus on the negative or the tension. And maybe that it's not that they don't know, but they don't want to admit it, right?
Right.
So can you say that phrase again that you
Yeah.
just gave?
Yeah, absolutely. So people are motivated by moments of tension. So people want to get away from pain and they want to move towards pleasure. That's the name of the game with marketing. So I always say sometimes they're motivated by, this is a moment of such high tension for me. I need something. But what really motivates them is the release. It's the letting off of the steam. So in your copy and in your marketing, if you can build up, kind of like, think of a pressure cooker. If you can build up, so we always say, you'll hear people say things like, really get into the pain points. Well, it's not really about making them feel pain. It's about increasing the pressure of that pressure cooker and then letting off the steam, the release is what causes the motivation. So it's actually the release of the tension that motivates me to make a decision, not increasing the tension. So increasing the tension makes me go, okay, this is uncomfortable. Where's the solution? And then your release
Yeah.
is what actually makes me make the decision. It's the motivating factor. It's not that if all you do is create more tension for me, I don't want to be a part of that.
Yeah.
Like, that's just stressing me out. I want to run as far away from that as I can. So you have to release the tension in order for me to choose to work with you.
Okay. So one quick question, again, going back to Pinterest and helping those out there that are trying to figure out how to create this get the buy scenario in the short copy that they're writing on their pin designs. When we're talking about tension and we're talking about the release, can you or do you see someone being able to phrase their copy in their title as a tension formed copy, but then have a micro release in their call to action, like on the actual image, to get them to click through to where they can help them even further with that release that they're looking for? Is that a way that we can kind of look at it a little bit differently in a short form type content?
Yeah, for sure. And the best way to do this is always through storytelling. And it's through helping people have pictures in their mind of what this looks like. So if you were to say, like, I know, Laura, one of the things you talk about a lot in your marketing is not having tantrums over tech or losing
For
sleep.
sure.
For sure, right? Because that's what Laura does. She helps you make this all simple and takes away that stress. So that is you talking about the tension in there are the words like, tantrums over tech and losing sleep. And then we release that by saying you're not going to have to deal with those things, right? So there is a tension and a release in the statement itself. So I want to be clear that you can do it within one sentence. You can say, you're
Amazing.
not going to have to deal with this. So those two things can happen simultaneously. You can also provide tension, like you said, in your headline. So, if you're experiencing this problem, if tensions over tech are dragging you down, are overwhelming you, are making you feel like you want to rip your hair out. And then you can go into that call to action can be something like, instead of spending all your time ripping your hair out, let's, standing in the mirror, ugly crying into the mirror, ripping your hair out over tensions over tech. Let's get you to the place to where you're doing a happy dance in the mirror and high-fiving yourself, right? Like, it's a release of what does that look like to finally feel like you have a solution to this problem.
Yeah,
and so it
for
can look
sure.
as simple as like, let's high-five ourselves in the mirror. Let's do a happy dance. Let's get you to, the moment of celebration with your champagne or something, right? It can just be that simple. It doesn't have to be this really big, like, oh my goodness, I need to come up with this brilliant thing. Picture it in your head. What does it look like? What does happiness look like for you? What does it look like when you finally solve the problem? What does it look like when you no longer are like sitting there struggling over and over and over again with tech?
Yeah.
When you can wake up in the morning with a little pep in your step because you actually got sleep, right? Think about what it feels like when you're dragging the next day because you got no sleep because you were up all night long working on this. And what does it feel like when you actually got sleep and when everything was done? It's all about feeling, right? And it's conveying those feelings to your buyer.
So amazing. Okay. So a fun little thing that I like to do to end this is I want to know if you had a crystal ball or a way to see into the next year, what is one thing that you think we should be focusing on, and how can we use that related to Pinterest? So is there one thing that you see shifting or changing in marketing, or that you predict will change that we need to make sure we're looking into right now?
I mean, I think we're already seeing this a lot, and it is video in its short form. So we're talking about things like, TikTok and Reels are huge right now, and they're going to continue to be huge. I think it's really important to take a look at what's happening in the world of social media. It's the digital world that we live in. And if you take a look at where are platforms, where are they losing viewers? Where are they losing followers? And where are those followers going, right? So if you take a look at something like Facebook, had a quarter that involved loss of followers, while TikTok had a huge gain. And, Facebook is saying that their loss is because of TikTok. So you have to follow the patterns of where people are going. And I think we're going to continue to see that increasing. And so where I think it's really important in Pinterest is that you're using Pinterest to drive people to your traffic, not just on your website, but also to your other platforms. And then, so if you're driving them to your short form video on TikTok or on Instagram Reels, then you need to have a funnel for that. And I don't love the word funnel, but you need to have a buyer's journey for that. So a system and a process for where do they go next? What happens next? So yes, I think that one of our big focuses has to be around creating these really short pieces of content. And again, this is content, right? So you're providing content, you're providing some education, you're providing some fun, you're giving them the know, like, and trust factor that they need to make a decision. And then within those, you need to have a system for what do you do next? How do you get them from those platforms into your email list? How do you get them from there to schedule a call, right? And so having a system behind that, I think, is going to be crucial for business growth.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. And so good to lead into the next podcast that we have coming up. We're going to be talking about short form video content.
Hey,
hello, how awesome, right? Who knew? You had no idea.
I didn't.
That's so awesome. All right, Amy, why don't you do me a favor and please remind everybody where people can find your business online and how they can connect with you further.
Yeah, so our website is freespiritdigital.com, and on all social platforms, we are at Free Spirit Digital.
Awesome. And I will have all the links for you guys below. And thank you so much for coming on here. It was, enlightening to talk about really honestly flipping how our mindset is around persuading someone that we are the best fit for them without feeling like we're that salesy weirdo person in the back corner, right? Because nobody likes that anymore.
Absolutely. You don't have to pressure people to buy from you if you've done all the right things on the other side. It should just be a simple attraction formula.
I love it so much. Thank you so much for helping us all through that today.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thanks so much for listening to the Pintastic Podcast. If you're enjoying the show, please feel free to rate, subscribe, and review on wherever you listen to your podcasts. We really appreciate that effort. Until next